Hey guys, welcome back. We are going to continue our study in drawing using a charcoal medium again this week. We are going to just do a simple composition up here. This is a small, like a 8x8 square watercolor paper. A little bit different medium than we've used in the past. We've used like Bristol board in the past for this. This time we're going to change it up a little bit, and there's going to be reasons why you might want to use something like this, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, as well as some of the tools that we'll be using. I'm Kendall Stump, and welcome to the Stump Project. Okay guys, so first of all, the paper that we could use, this is watercolor paper. What you might use this for, obviously traditionally, would be watercolor, inks, things like that, maybe some wet acrylics. What you can do is you can put charcoal on this. You can do your illustration just like you would with watercolor. You could use graphite and do your illustration and then watercolor on top of it. You can do the same thing with that, but what you might do instead of putting the charcoal down first and then put watercolor on top of it, you can do a sketch and then put watercolor down, and then to enhance the watercolor, put charcoal on top of that. Now the reason why you probably wouldn't want to do it the other way is because that charcoal can get reactivated. Even if you use a fixative or something like that to kind of seal it, you still run a danger of getting in there and muddying up your watercolor. So if you're going to combine watercolor and charcoal, it's best to do it watercolor first, charcoal on top of that. And then you'll be able to really achieve that richness. Now it can be charcoal, it can be pastels, chalk, whatever, what have you. But I mean, that would be the order that you would want to do it. So as far as the tools that we're going to be using, again, this is just watercolor paper. I used some painter's tape to, the paper actually comes out to right here, but I put a nice border on it. This will maintain any border that we use. This is just a kneaded eraser. You can see it's quite dark, and it's just because of charcoal. It's still pretty good. It'll still work. I'm using this is a watercolor fan brush, and you can use this just to get some blending, some feathering. This is other texture and techniques. This is a smudge stick. It will pick up some charcoal, as you can see here, and it will smudge things around, help you blend. You can use it to pick things up. And guide your drawing as you go. Charcoal pencil for the more fine detail work. A white charcoal pencil, again, for the more fine detail work. This is willow charcoal. This isn't vine. It's very close to vine. Vine is a little bit thinner than this. There are different types of charcoal that you can use. Everything from charcoal that's like really compressed and it's maybe harder to smudge, to maybe things that feel a bit more waxy or greasy. I mean, there's a whole variety of charcoals out there, and I encourage you to experiment with them. I plan to, and I will bring them to you as I do. Chalk. It's just ordinary chalk. Chalk and charcoal, I think, go really, really well together, better than white charcoal. And the reason why I say that is because the white charcoal, it seems like at least the kind that I've been using, seems like it takes a little bit more to blend it. So if you're trying to blend that with charcoal, you still have some lines. The chalk, however, is just as soft and easy to blend into the charcoal as charcoal is to blend. So it really makes for really nice, simple transitions, and the highlights stand out right on top. And then lastly is this little sanding board right here. And that's actually what we're going to start with. I am going to sand down some of this charcoal I've got. Just get a little pile there on my board. Now what I want to do is I'm going to make a composition here, and the composition is going to have just some cherries right here, really just some fruit, in a simple background. But I don't want it just to be a simple background. I want it to be a little bit more interesting. So I've never done this, so let's just see what happens. There we go. That's my background. That's what I'm going to use. Now, like I said, I've got this taped off, so when I remove this tape, there's going to be a nice crisp white line that's going to go right across here, and wherever else that we end up blending or smearing or what have you. So I'm going to try and leave that alone for as much as I can. Over here, I'm going to put the reference image that I'm going to be using, just a couple of cherries. And what we want to do is focus on the composition. Now you'll notice in that image that it's more portrait style, and portrait meaning that it's taller than it is wide, right? So and my canvas is not. So I need to kind of decide how I want this composition to be laid out. Composition isn't something that we've really talked about, and we probably should. It's more of the balance. Think of it as the balance on your paper. How do you want to lead the eye? And there's certain rules on how you would do this. Now, we talked about dividing our canvas into thirds, and horizon lines are generally on one of the thirds. The points of interest are usually right around one of those intersecting lines. In this case, we're going to put the cherries right here on the lower third. Okay, so we'll start off. I'm just using the charcoal pencil just to kind of lay this out. And these are my cherries, so there's not like I'm not trying to make an exact duplicate of this photo. I'm using it as a point of reference. I'm just making things as organic as I want them to be. See, and I may even decide to make this a little bit larger. It feels like it needs to be. So we'll just bring this over. Something like that, perhaps. And then on this side, and then not use landmarks, right? So if you use the top of this cherry right here to where the top of the other cherry is, you'll see that the other cherry is down a little bit lower. And we see that there's almost right beside each other, and it's a nice curve. Like that, and then we'll have shadows that's going to come this way and right off of that right there. Basics, and you can see already that I'm right on my lower third right here, and here's my upper third and my lower third. I'm right there, and then actually if you divide these up vertically too, you'll see that each one of those is right on that interest point. So as far as compositions goes, this is kind of where it's laying me out to be. We want to put that stem in. Now the question is, well, how high do you want that stem to be? That stem on the photograph is probably about, I don't know, 1.5 cherries high. So if I measure this, or just use my pencil as a guide, and I'll show you guys how to do that at some point. So right here, that's 1. So 1.5, it will put it clear up here to the top. That's going to offset or unbalance, make my picture unbalanced, because then I'll have imagery going all the way up here to the top, but there's nothing down here at the bottom. So I don't want to go that high. I don't want to go any higher than what this is. So we can measure this right here. So I don't want to go any higher than like right there for where I want those cherries to be. Something like that. And something like that. Pretty simple, right? I mean, I'm kind of reinventing what this stem looks like. And that's fine, because like I said earlier, these are my cherries. If I'm doing this up on my easel, if you want to have a little bit more control, you can do this flat on a table. You don't need an easel to do this. But if you do it on a table, just remember, if you put your hand on there, you're going to pick up charcoal. I mean, see that? Just a little setup. Okay, so now that we have that, that's the basics, right? We have a really simplistic background. We have our subject matter. Now we just decide the values of it. Now, part of what's going to dictate the values and what might change versus that photo is the background. The photo you see is completely white. So the dark cherries on the white background makes it stand out and be very, very contrasting. So we have a little bit of a value shift right through here on ours. So to put that dark against that, could it work? Possibly. But we're going to accentuate that. We're going to put another highlight. We're going to watch the highlights, and we're going to put like a little bit of a rim light right across here, and maybe on the other side as well, just to help separate that from the background. You may have to suspend belief just for a moment for how it may, would the light really do that? Well, maybe, but maybe not. What we're really trying to do is separate the subject from the background. So now what we're going to do is we're going to block in, I'm just using my charcoal, we're going to block in some value. And just think of these things as shapes. Right? Don't try to draw every pore on this cherry. You just think of these things as shapes. Maybe that comes around like that. Something to that nature. And we'll mirror that on this side. And now we can start dealing with some of the midtones. And this is where you can use a variety of things. You can use your smudge stick, and you can come in here like this and start moving things around. You can use your fan brush, and you pull. No, we need the fan brush. It's interesting. You pull from the dark area into the light, like this. And you can use your brush strokes. You don't have to, I mean, you can just make one swipe and just kind of leave it go. If you keep working it, you will just start blending it out into nothingness. Or, lastly, you just use your finger. And now at this point, you just continue to build So you smudge some of that stuff around. If you want parts darker, you just come back in, you just apply more charcoal, and maybe you don't disturb it so much the next time you start to blend. I'm just using this, just like some graphite, just lightly etching, just really just going over super light. Now, if you use a clean finger, see, this already has some charcoal on it. If you use a clean finger, like this finger here, for example, you'll actually remove quite a bit. But the finger that you have already used to pick up charcoal, you can define that a little bit more and help put in those shapes and values that you want, help control that. You're just building on this piece by piece. You put some down, you do a little blending, and you put some more down, you do a little bit more blending. Charcoal is actually quite forgiving. See, so there's that, and I've moved some of this dark value, so I'll just put it back. Okay, so now I'm going to use the chalk to come in here and accentuate some of these highlights and even clean up some of the outline that I may want to clean up a little bit. Or you can use your kneaded eraser, this thing right here. You just get into a nice shape that you want, and you can just bring it right along there and start picking up, smoothing out your line. laying some of this white chalk down like this is going to allow me to go back in with the charcoal and get a nice transition, a little more gray in here. So as I come in, you can see I'm not just adding black to the white surface, it's actually turning gray. Because it's mixing with that chalk that's on the surface. Now, if I want to push harder, I can get more charcoal on there and it'll make that darker. But it's going to be difficult for me just to get flat black now because of the chalk that it's going to mix with. I'm blending this highlight, it's the highlighted area right here. I'm just kind of blending it and just letting the edge just kind of dissolve a little bit. It's akin to a lost edge. Again, using the white charcoal pencil, it has similar properties as the chalk, meaning I'm putting it on top of the charcoal, and the charcoal is making it gray, and it's just giving me a little bit more control. And for the most part, that's it. You can tell how easy that really was. And once we put in the background and then we laid out all of the objects, working with value, it just comes down to how you want to blend it. If you use a clean or an oily finger, just by touching your palm, you kind of get some of that oil from your palm, and you go on and you can smear and actually lift up a lot cleaner than if you just take a finger that you've been blending with. A dirty finger will continue to blend and maintain your grays. A clean finger will help lift those grays. So it's just going to come down to experimenting a little bit and just to see what's going to work for you. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this because you see all these little specks and petals from where I flung that charcoal dust up here, and I really like the effect. I think it looks really cool. Just to show you, right there, you see how that dust and everything, you can see there's a definitive border. That was placed on there. And it's just fun. It creates this framed piece. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that you give it a try. I know charcoal, it's a little daunting. It seems like it's going to be messy, and it is. But put down a tarp, put down some extra paper, cover up the areas on your canvas that you don't want to have charcoal residue on, and you'll be good. Once you're done, spray this with fixative. It will help seal it. You can use other things like hairspray, for example, but in some cases that can be a little more It can yellow over time, and it's not necessarily archival properties. So just be cautious when you're dealing with that kind of thing. Outside of that, I hope you liked this video. If you did, subscribe. Check out my other videos. Share it with those who you think could benefit from a lot of these fundamentals. And I hope to see you again next time.